How's it going? And welcome to episode 255 of On the Wire, proud member of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. I am Adam Howe, joined as always by Kevin Hastings. Thank you all for listening and or watching. For those on YouTube, appreciate you. We got a great show as we head into the 10th FAAB period of the season. Kevin, is this the third? Is this the 33% mark, or are we past that already?
We are rapidly approaching, if not quite there.
All right. And yeah, it's just at this point where obviously we had so much news, so many things going on this week. This week, I'm not saying it's less news, but I want to say it's less impactful, or at least less dramatic for most of the case. Now there's some big things that we can talk about, of course, but we're just kind of trudging along as we get through May at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been fun. In spite of your Red Sox coming into Kansas City and knocking and sweeping the Royals. It's been a fun week. Quite a bit going on. Still several moves. Like you said, I don't know that there's as many impactful moves as the last couple of weeks, but still a lot of little things and a couple of big ones.
Yeah. And, just to get this out of the way, and I'll mention it again later, but, we are at the Memorial Day break, right? And we always say, like, you're not supposed to be checking your standings until past Memorial Day, but everybody does that. You're always checking your standings throughout the course of the year. But once when you do peak that and you realize you're either middle of the pack or you have a lot of gaining to do, you consider all of your options, right? We're going to make sure that you have all the tools in your toolbox to get through the rest of the season. And so this is why Pitcher List is offering a discount on PL Pro annual subscription through Memorial Day weekend with the code Memorial25 at checkout. And it's going to give you access to all the premium tools, the Discord community, and the first look at the PL Pro dashboard, which is very close to being released. I'm really looking forward to that, where you're able to actually, import your rosters from all your teams and actually make decisions based on all the tools that PL Pro has to offer. So if you're serious about, wanting to make that jump through the second and third of the season into your head-to-head playoffs, into the final stretch run of your Roto leagues, make sure you consider getting PL Pro on an annual basis. Use Memorial25 for 2 free months of PL Pro yearly. And it is yearly, so you're going to get it through draft season of next
That's
year.
Where I was going to go, Adam.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, keep an eye on that. We will use we'll use the weekly projections that you get with PL Pro throughout the course of this episode as well. And that's where PL Bot is going head to head with Nick on his streamers every single day. So you get those as well. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just list off every single thing you get. But it's definitely worth it. And so check that out. But Kevin, I said there's not as much there's probably an equal amount of line items that I'm going to go through with news.
They're quicker.
But they do seem quicker. Yeah. And I definitely left some other bigger things out, like cool, Ronald Acuna Jr. is back from the IL. Don't need to talk about that. You're more than welcome to, but I wasn't going to bring it up, and I already have. So let's start in New York now, though, and go with the Mets, who exactly as you suggested on the last episode, and we all kind of were expecting this. Zach Thornton did make his debut earlier in the week. It didn't go that great, but we'll see how long he lasts. But now the Mets are following suit with the return of Jonah Tong to the Mets rotation, and by way of DFAing Craig Kimbrell. So we'll see how many jerseys Craig Kimbrell can actually add to his collection. I have a theory. The question is, who at the end of their career has more jerseys, Craig Kimbrell or Tommy Pham? And I think it's going to be a neck and neck race, because each one of them keeps signing with like 2 or 3 teams in the course of the season. It only counts if they get the major league jersey, not if they
Love it.
sign a minor league team. So, we'll think about that. Give me your bet by the end of the episode. But Jonah Tong, we talked about him as not an option last week just because he had been doing so poorly in AAA. But at the same time, he's here. So you have to take notice at least how much interest you have in Tong versus Thornton, because Thornton hasn't gone anywhere. He's still on the roster.
Yeah, he's still there, and he looks to line up to face Cincinnati this weekend. Cincinnati's been pretty good against lefties in the month of May and really all season, but they do strike out about 27% of the time versus lefties in the month of May. And the game is in New York, which is one of the more pitcher-friendly parks around the league. So I kind of like Thornton this week, and I was just looking to see how things were going for Tong here on Friday evening.
Not terrible. 3 innings, 2 strikeouts, no runs. Was it two hits or 3 hits? No, not even 3 hits. 1 hit.
Yeah. So I think the thing is, we're fairly certain that we're going to see Thornton again this week. Mm-hmm. Do we know that we'll see Tong again? I don't think so. We're projected to get Christian Scott back next weekend. So one of them's going to be out, and at least with Christian Scott coming back next weekend, that means we will not see Tong this week, more than likely. Just with the regular rotation, and then the off day on Thursday, and they'll go right back to Freddie Peralta on Friday, and they have Christian Scott penciled in for the weekend. So it's going to be a wait and see on Tong still, unfortunately, for those that have been eagerly awaiting for his appearance.
Yeah. They
get to see him on Friday, but I don't think he's going to pitch this coming week.
It depending on how things kind of work out for the rest of this game with Tong. A start on Wednesday would be, regular rest. And if they just kind of wanted to move things around and either move David Peterson into the bullpen or move David Peterson up a day and use Zach Thompson in a long relief role, piggybacking, Christian Scott as like a bullpen game or something like that, they could do that and then send Thornton down. It really depends on how they felt his last start went, which, the results on the top were, not that great. And we'll see how that works out as far as how the Mets think that could go. But there's still a lot of moving pieces that they could end up making to get Jonah Tong back in the lineup. But either way, to your point, with the return of Christian Scott and, continuing just with their regular rotation, Freddie Peralta, Nolan McLean, and assuming we're not moving David Peterson out of here, we could just see both of them after this week. Both of them could be back down. Staying in the NL East, we have the Washington Nationals earlier in the week bringing back Dylan Cruz at the expense of Brady House and Joey Waimer getting sent down to AAA. Is this basically like a long time coming, or is this Dylan Cruz up for good? Or I think a lot of us were surprised that they sent him down to begin the season as it was, but now he's back, and I can't imagine that he's really going anywhere. Are you going out to grab Cruz wherever you can?
Yeah, I'll definitely have bids in on Cruz. Already stole a base here on Friday. Right around 200 batting average so far. And that was the worry coming into the season after that 208 he put up last season. At AAA so far this year, a 258 batting average, but 345 OBP, much better than the 280 we saw in the major leagues last season. I feel like he worked on whatever they wanted him to work on, but the overall package still doesn't look great. He had 5 home runs, 7 stolen bases, but he's striking out more than ever. More than he ever has in the minor leagues. He's striking out so far this season. Maybe that's part of the change. Maybe they want him swinging more often. I do vaguely recall Adam was being a little too passive at the plate, part of his issue over the first couple of seasons.
I think it
So
was
maybe
really
that is what they
disappointing.
wanted him to do. And his batting average has gone up, even though he's striking out more.
The
So yeah,
overcompensate.
I'm going after him here. But yeah, he's hitting in that 5-6 spot. Projected, Jason over at Roster Resource thought he'd be in the 3 hole. So far he's been in the 5 or 6 spot, but if he can keep up what he was doing at the AAA level and not being as passive and being more authority with having more authority on his swings, maybe this is going to work out finally in year 3.
Yeah, it would be nice to, I'll take a couple points off the batting average if we can actually get some, counting stats and some volume out of him due to the more aggressive approach. So we'll see if he translates that longer than just the past 5 days into next week. Speaking of somebody who finally returned to their major league roster, this time mostly due to injury and not so much being demoted, Baltimore gets Jackson Holliday back in the mix. He came back officially to the roster on Monday, but has sat to start the 2 out of the last 4 games, both against lefty starters. Do you expect this? Do you think that this is more of a easing him back into the lineup after starting the season on the IL with Hammate, or is this exactly what you expect Baltimore's going to use him for as a strong side of the platoon at second base moving forward?
I think that is the case. I think it will be strong side platoon, and they may be easing him in, but it'll be a long easing in. I think it'll be a while before we see him get a start against the lefty. Maybe he gets left in the game when lefties come in for an opportunity or two. You can't get him out every time. He'll obviously see some. But with Jeremiah Jackson, yeah, he cooled off, but versus lefties, he's probably still a better bat in that lineup.
Yeah, Baltimore seems to have a pretty strict platoon in a few spots.
Yes,
just
they
looking
do.
at this lineup,
They use their entire bench versus lefties.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. With Leody Taveras, Holiday now, and even Kobe Mayo that wasn't really, he only missed games because he needed a routine day off. So it looked a little tighter than it was, but yeah, there's a lot of mixing and matching going there in Baltimore when it comes to the handedness of the pitcher that's starting. All right. Speaking of getting a shortstop back, the Houston Astros get Jeremy Pena back. It is at the behest of Jose Altuve hitting the IL, which we assumed would happen. We talked about at the end of last week, but Jeremy Pena just slotting right back in at shortstop for the Astros. With Jose Altuve officially going on the IL, are we seeing exactly what we thought we would see with Bryce Matthews and anybody else in the Houston lineup?
Yeah, I thought we might see a little more Bryce Matthews, but it has been they got Pena back, and we knew that, and it's a 1-for-1 in the lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Altuve was leading off. We just stick Pena in the leadoff spot all 4 games versus righties and lefties since he's been back. But Braden Shoemake slid over to second base to take Altuve's spot, and then they got Jake Myers back as well. So that's why we haven't seen as much Bryce Matthews as I had anticipated we might. We got Jake Myers back on Tuesday, and he's back in center field. So Bryce Matthews is just giving Shoemake a break at second base once in a while is what we're seeing so far. So as we talked last week, Braden Shoemake is getting the at-bats and plate appearances. However, Bryce Matthews is not, with Jake Myers and Jeremy Pena both back.
Yeah, what you're saying is the exact opposite thing that we thought might happened.
Yeah,
with Bryce Matthews. Yeah, okay.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Good to know.
And I don't think I took into consideration that Jake Myers. I don't know if I missed it or if we didn't know that.
Yeah, he definitely didn't come up on our radar, my radar as well. And so that's definitely on us. So sorry everybody out there listening, but just know that I at least in one or two leagues took my own advice, and I've got some Bryce Matthews not doing anything for me on those
Same.
teams, unfortunately. We got the Cincinnati Reds, who they got Eugenio Suarez back at the behest of Cabrian Hayes hitting the IL with a lumbar bulging disc. I typed that on the outline, and I'm like, it just hurts typing it.
Yes.
And so, I mean, Eugenio Suarez slots right back in for the Reds, but is Cabrian Hayes leaving a hole of any kind that Suarez isn't just filling in the Reds lineup?
Well, they got postponed on Friday, and I really wanted to see exactly what they were going to do, because my assumption when Suarez was coming back was he'd DH for a couple days. But then the Cabrian Hayes news, now that makes me wonder about that. So I really wanted to see what they were going to do versus St. Louis on Friday. But the designated hitter position has been floating around a little bit there in Cincinnati. Blade gets a day off. Sal Stewart gets a day off. But I think Nathaniel Lowe, if Eugenio Suarez is going to take DH at bats, is the biggest loser here. However, we may see him at third base. Sal Stewart move back over to first base, and they'll still have the floating DH would be the case. So, but either way, Suarez is going to be back in there. If somebody misses out on time because he needs to DH, I think it'll be Nathaniel Lowe, and we should be able to figure that out. They still have 3 games over the weekend, playing a doubleheader on Saturday now.
Yeah, I mean, Lowe has been missing pretty much every other game for the last 3 weeks anyway. Yep. So, if he were to somehow lose more time than that, I'd be surprised. So yeah, just doing kind of a swip and swatch, especially since Suarez it's not as though Suarez wasn't playing third base, and he was like 100% DH. He wasn't playing it very often, but he's got a handful of games before hitting the IL at third base. So wouldn't be too surprising. I don't expect to see him out there every single day, but I do expect him to play a game here or there, just like he was before hitting the IL. I mean, don't get me wrong, I expect Suarez to be in the lineup every single day, but I just don't expect him to be playing third base every single day. And speaking of guys coming back, we got in Seattle, Victor Robles back from the IL to make room. They optioned Connor Joe to AAA. Victor Robles had a nice little run. I think it was most of last year where we got some good value out of him, but even before his injury this year has not been somebody of value at all. Do you expect to use Victor Robles in any situations now that he's back?
As a streamer, when Seattle's facing a lot of lefties in a week, that's all he's going to play. He's going to platoon with Luke Raley just like he was before the injury, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, we only have 1 day of exposure to that.
That's what they did right away.
Exactly what they did. Yeah. Started in right field, batted 8th on Friday's game against the lefties. So, yeah, all the cards are on the table there. All right, we've got we'll stay in the AL West here and go to Texas. Earlier in the week, the Rangers lost Corey Seager to the IL. And I mean, we've had a whole week pretty much to see what the Rangers were going to do here, Kevin. What are you seeing?
Yeah, this has been kind of interesting. Ezekiel Duran, who had been playing every day, mostly at second base, slid over to shortstop. We talked about him last week. He's finally been putting up at least some counting stats for us this season after just being an empty when he was in the lineup, empty batting average for a couple of seasons when I had liked him and kind of gave up on him. And then Justin Foscue is the big winner here as far as plate appearances so far, because they've slid him over from just getting a start every 3 or 4 days at first base. He's gotten all of the second base starts versus righties and lefties since then. And even in the last 2 games versus lefties, moved up to the second spot, Corey Seager's spot in the lineup. So Justin Foscue, he had a little bit of pedigree in the minors. I was pretty excited the first time we saw him. Was it 22 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago when he came up for his little cup of coffee there, 15 games. I was pretty excited about that. He did not, his batting average was worse than 1 out of 20, put it that way. So far, so good. It's only 37 plate appearances, but much better this time, including 2 home runs already. So I think Justin Foscue might be a pretty popular ad this week. If anybody needs a middle infielder.
Saw his name pop up.
He probably doesn't qualify at second yet.
Well, by the time we're bidding on him, he very well might. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 second base starts.
So we need him Saturday and Sunday.
There you go. So by the time he's on your roster on Monday, he's very well going to be second base eligible. In addition,
just don't give him a day off.
It's funny, Duran. It seems to take the exact role that Josh Smith did last year for the Rangers. Like Josh Smith could play everywhere, and he literally was forced to as they were kind of flipping through injuries. And now Duran's doing the same thing. Getting honestly, it's because Josh Smith hit the IL a couple weeks ago. That's when Duran started getting everyday playing time, and now Duran's been moving around from left field to second base, and now everyday shortstop. The same way Josh Smith did last year. So glad to see Duran doing good things with the opportunity on many of my teams. So that's good for everybody. All right, we got a couple more. We got plenty of news more to talk about, but first we do have to take a quick break. All right, now we've got a nice little string of call-ups, some more players that are getting either in the surprise. We got some call-ups, and then we have some surprising send-outs. Maybe they're not surprising to those who are paying more attention than me, but I saw the names and I saw AAA. I was like, oh, didn't expect that to happen. But let's get to the call-ups first. The Cubs call up prospect Pedro Ramirez to the roster because they lost Matt Shaw to the IL with back tightness. And Pedro Ramirez, one of their top prospects for the Cubs, but he did not get into the game on Friday. I can't imagine he doesn't get into the game on Saturday, making him eligible to be bid on. But even if he does, Kevin, are you like as much of a prospect pedigree in that term that everybody loves to hear that Ramirez might have? I don't see where he kind of fits into everyday playing time. But he also seems too high on their prospect list to be like, well, if you're going to call him up, why wouldn't you play him regularly? What are your overall thoughts on Ramirez and their expectations?
Yeah, the path that it took me a while, but I found the path. And they moved their DH around a little bit as well, but about half of the days it's Michael Conforto. So as a third base, second base guy, can he spell Alex Bregman and Dansby Swanson here and there so that they can get a day off? Is Dansby Swanson going to start losing playing time? I mean, he's been really bad. So I don't know what we're going to see here. I really don't. I agree with you. I don't think you call up Pedro Ramirez if he's not going to play. Dansby Swanson's on base percentage is under 300, but it's very close. That is much better than the 191 batting average so far on the season. And Dansby does have 7 home runs, but that's what Pedro Ramirez has been doing, is hitting home runs down in the minors. So unfortunately, I wish we would have saw where they put him in the lineup on Friday, but they didn't. So we do have to wait for Saturday. I agree with you. He's almost got to be in that lineup on Saturday. So he will be available to bid on Sunday. But I think I'm not going high bids, but I'm going to bid on him. I'm going to expect that somehow, just like you said, they don't call him up to sit on the bench. We talked about you brought him up 2 weeks ago, and that's Kevin Alcantara being an option to fill in. Probably
at the cost of DFAing Michael Conforto. So there is if they do trust Pedro Ramirez to kind of fill this gap, that is pretty much the only avenue that I see that's obvious is, just putting, telling Michael Conforto he doesn't need to play anymore. Not that Conforto's not playing his role in being productive in it, but if they want some more flexibility, I mean, that's all Conforto's doing is DHing, right? Every once in a while, they throw him in one of the corner outfield spots, but that's like twice a month that might happen. So I'm not saying that that's what the Cubs are going to do, but it is the avenue that I see as I'm looking up and down their lineup, because I don't expect Swanson to sit at the behest of Pedro Ramirez. And even with his struggles, I still don't expect that to necessarily happen. And I mean, I didn't notice like the severity of Matt Shaw's back tightness, but back tightness obviously has a potential of lingering. It also has a potential of being pretty light, and we can, see him come back. Not that he was playing every day either. He was playing more sparingly than Conforto was. So it's not as though Matt Shaw left a lot on the table for Ramirez to eat up after the fact. So yeah, there's not a lot of avenue here. As exciting as this might be, especially for Cubs fans they're chomping at the bit to see some of their really high end prospects, especially on the hitting side, come up and make a difference.
Yeah, and Ballesteros getting the other DH appearances so far. This is going to be intriguing to see. I feel like they're going to find a way to get him in the lineup more days than not. Yeah, but I don't know how.
I mean, they didn't yet, but it's only been one day. Right. So Pittsburgh, not to be outdone, calls up one of their top prospects as Esmerlyn Valdez on Thursday. He does start on his first eligible day on Friday. That was today in right field, batting eighth. Has some experience at first base as well. I mean, it's been one day, so I'm not going to ask you, is he going to be there in every single day? And it was against a right-handed pitcher to start it off. But again, if they're going to call up Valdez at this point, is he too high of a prospect to expect him to be missing a lot of time at the major league roster level?
Yeah, I think they brought him up to play him every day. He's already got 10 home runs in just 46 games at AAA this season. And he's made this progression over the past two seasons, hitting high A and double A. A was 2024. So last season was high A and double A. This season, they didn't send him out there. He had 26 home runs in those two levels last year, with decent batting averages. They still sent him down to AAA, give him some time there, and close to 200 plate appearances. I think that was probably the plan all along, was as long as things went well, send him down for a couple hundred plate appearances. It went very well. Let's get him back up here and see if we can start hitting these home runs in Pittsburgh.
There you go. I mean, yeah, I'd much rather have those home runs in Pittsburgh than in Indianapolis, or at least the Pirates would.
Did you get to see Valdez play?
No, I haven't been to a game yet this year. And gotcha. I'm really tempted to go. I doubt I'll be able to convince the fam to do it, but
for those that can't see Adam like I can, he just looked at the door to the room he's in after he said that, like he was looking to see if his wife heard him say what he's about to say. For those that couldn't see that.
Yeah, well, we'll say maybe she heard me and she'll take, we'll go to the game. Well, because tomorrow, Saturday, something I left out of the notes, Jared Jones is in his rehab, and they moved his rehab to Indianapolis due to weather concerns. So I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Let's go to a game on a Saturday night, just because Jared Jones is pitching. So even if we found a way to do that, we'll miss Valdez, obviously.
And there's another thing adding in, and we didn't get to see Valdez. We don't want to miss this too.
Yeah, exactly. I never got to see Skeens. He wasn't down here long enough. It's like there's so many guys I've missed that's come up through the Pittsburgh system. I got a second chance here. We'll see. We'll see. The Tigers are getting back a member of their rotation, and in the form of Troy Melton. He's expected to start on Sunday. Do you expect Melton to stick around in the rotation after Sunday's start? And if so, is he kicking anybody out?
Ooh, is he kicking anybody out? It's always the question you add on at the end that throws me for a loop there, Adam. I do think he'll stick in the rotation. I think obviously it will depend on performance, but one, they need another starter. They only have 4 in the rotation right now.
Mm-hmm.
They need him. I think that is a big part of it. And it's, gosh, when was the last time we saw him pitch? It was this year, actually, huh?
No, Melton's coming back from, I thought he was coming back from TJ. Wasn't it a shoulder?
So did I. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he only had 45 innings last season, 4 of his appearances.
And it was at the very beginning of the season.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, he was pitching so well in a couple of seasons before that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we've seen him a mix of starter and reliever. I love it that they're bringing him back as a starter right away. He's only got 11 2/3 innings in his 4 starts so far coming back. But, first couple in inning, then 2 innings. So he's up to 4 or 5. I think Melton is one of my top pitching targets this week.
Yeah, you're right. Like, they obviously don't have anybody to kick out of the rotation, so he'll be in for a while. Obviously, Turk Skubal is on the mend, and obviously he, once he's ready to go, which all the reports seem to say that, he's gonna hit or break the expectations on how long he'll be out. He'll jump back in. They still have Justin Verlander kind of in the wings, whether or not he ever pitches again. I'm not sure. I'm not ready to say yet. And so they do have they have a handful of injured starters that could come up. So it's not as though this is Melton's job for the whole season, regardless. But if he can continue, I mean, his rehab starts have looked really good. And so if he can just continue.
Unfortunately, his first start isn't until Sunday, so we can't even bid on him this week.
Nope. No, I'm pretty sure no one drafted him. I mean, you could go check your free agent wire to see if anybody did it and dropped him. But
only if somebody didn't check while they were drafting and had a complete blank on when he went down, like I did.
There you go. It's possible. I mean, in your draft and holds, you may have him sitting somewhere deep on your bench, but I mean, we could see. I mean, it's not as though Jack Flaherty, Casey Mize, and Kiter Montero are untouchable either in the rotation, right? So there's a lot of moving parts there is an avenue for Melton to kind of roll with it and kind of keep the job, but there's also no guarantee as well. But all you can really play for right now is the short term. In the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, Melton looks like he's got a nice little cushy job with the Tigers. The Yankees, they start this this one's not too surprising. Spencer Jones goes back to AAA as quickly as he came up into our lives. He is gone. And it is to make room for Jose Caballero, who comes back from the IL on pretty much minimum day rest on his stint there. And then Garrett Cole also returned to the Yankees major league active roster on Friday. Caballero slotted right back into the starting lineup on his first day back on Friday, having a decent day at the plate. Like you said last week, Aaron Boone said Caballero's job is the starting shortstop, and I don't see that changing now that he's returned and he's made good on that promise. Do you expect anything different to happen moving forward? Because Volpe is still there.
Yeah, but I don't expect that to be long. They got Schumann up there too. Volpe's he does have the OBP due to walking as much as he strikes out. But when you're striking out 23% of the time, is that a good thing? So Yeah, the 217 batting average, 0 home runs. I know it's only 8 games, only 30 plate appearances, but I thought Volpe really had to be elite to stick around. So I don't think he's even sticking around. Elmer Rodriguez, the casualty with the Cole coming back off rehab as well there. So I think this is going as exactly as most of us expected in New York.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, let's remember Volpe came back from the IL and then was immediately demoted to AAA from after his return. So it will not be terribly surprising to see that happen once again when necessary. More returns to AAA now in Miami with Braxton Garrett getting the boot to AAA. Officially, Robbie Snelling is going to have Tommy John surgery if he hasn't already by the time you're listening to this. I wouldn't be surprised if you just don't see Snelling through the 2027 season just due to the timing of the surgery. Typical if I'm assuming he's getting the full surgery and not like the brace procedure, which would keep him out a good year and a half or more. And that very well could just maybe he gets a cup of coffee in late August or September for the Marlins, but I think it's probably more likely that he rehabs and gets starts at AAA at the end of 2027. So probably take him off your draft boards for next year as well. And also should be noted that even though they've been calling up all these guys, Garrett and Snelling, they're not going to be continuing that trend with Thomas White. He hits the AAA IL for the Marlins I don't know who the Marlins AAA team is, but whoever he plays for in AAA, he's not playing for them right now as he sits on their 7-day IL. What's going on in Miami? Is there any other rotation help that you've noticed or you expect?
Well, it looks like they're going to go with Ryan Gusto on Saturday. That would be as an opener. So they're already playing that game. They're already playing a bullpen day. And then later this coming week, that spot will come up against, where did they go? I just had it. There it is. That spot will come up on Friday at the New York Mets. So maybe a spot where we do want to try to figure this out. Unfortunately, as of right now, with the Thomas White news, with Braxton Garrett being sent down, I don't have any idea what that would be other than a bullpen day. Yeah. So there might not be anybody there. The move may be put $1 on the guy that follows Gusto tomorrow if he pitches well. Chasing wins on Friday against the Mets with the bulk guy. That might be the move.
Who would that be though? Like that's the thing. Like you look through this roster and you're like, whoever follows him could be anybody.
They're going to tell us tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then we put $1 on him on Sunday.
There you go. As long as they tell us.
Yeah. Because they're doing the same thing tomorrow.
There you go. Oh, fair. All right. Well, a lot of minimum bids coming out of Miami on Sunday. But speaking of minimum bids, we have Yoan Moncada leaving the Angels active roster, hitting the IL with a right knee inflammation. They also lose Josh Lowe. He is one of the more surprising. As bad as he's been, it shouldn't be a huge surprise, but he's just been up for so long. To see that kind of a demotion, it was surprising. So Josh Lowe hits AAA for the Angels this time. Moncada, always seems to be at the one of the top weekly expectations for the weekly with the weekly PL weekly projections for hitters, especially based on his rostership availability. Not this week, obviously. Is there anybody taking the place of these two guys? Because they may not have been playing every single day for the Angels, but them both leaving pretty much at the same time has to leave some kind of void.
Yeah, well, on Friday, they got both AAA call-ups in the lineup right off the bat. Wade Meckler in left field hitting 6th, and Donovan Walton playing third base hitting 9th. I think Vaughn Grissom still gets a majority of the time at third base. They do like to sit him versus righties once in a while, and maybe they want to be able to do that more often. But I think they're going to give each of these guys some run. Wade Meckler, 400 plate appearances last season, 1 home run, 11 stolen bases. Probably not a lot of interest there. He would be in Lau's spot, Josh Lowe, excuse me. And then what's his name? Walton. This caught us off guard, Adam. I didn't even know who he was.
I know I didn't even put it in the outline because I'm like, I just know these guys left, but I didn't actually know who they filled the roster spot in until I looked at the starting lineup for today. So I'm glad you.
Yeah. If Donovan Walton does get playing time, he might be a sneaky source of some moderate power, but not a whole lot. And that's really all the interest I have here. Probably none this week, but I will monitor the playing time these two guys get. But I don't think they offer much fantasy wise.
Yeah, both lefty bats coming into the lineup. Very strong possibility that they get a platoon, and it's not even a full strong side platoon as they make their way in. Back, well, at least for Meckler back into the Angels
for
lineup.
Walton, Grissom does play versus some righties. Now Meckler's got more of a chance here because Josh Lowe played against every righty, so we may see that. But with they do have Jose Siri, they just called up last week. And also Adam Frazier can play anywhere on the field in that lineup. So this is going to be something we have to watch. Neither one of these guys are guys that they have to put in the lineup on a regular basis.
Exactly. It's not like Moncada and Lowe were playing every single day themselves. Lowe a little bit more than Moncada, but again, with them both being gone. But I mean, they were playing on the same day too. So it's not as though they're like, combined, they're playing every single day. It's like they're just overlapping each other in the lineup. All right, now we're going to end the show or the end of the news section here with
it's going to be Catcher Palooza and FAAB this week.
Right?
Yeah.
So we got a lot of catchers to talk about, but before we do that, I got to catch my breath and we're going to take another break. All right, this one's a combination of a little bit of a surprise demotion and catcher news. Ryan Jeffers is having surgery to repair his hamate bone. Just the year of the hamate, right? More than a handful of well-known players going through this procedure. He should be out for the next 2 months or so. And when he does return, we all know all the concerns about your hamate surgery and sucking power and all that, especially being behind the plate as often as Jeffers was. But also Minnesota is losing Royce Lewis, who's getting demoted to AAA as well. Orlando Arcia and Alex Jackson replaced Jeffers and Lewis on the active Minnesota roster. I mean, were you surprised to see Lewis being demoted at this point in his career as well? Or was this kind of a long time coming in your eyes?
If it wasn't for the injuries, it would have been a long time coming. But with the injuries, I still feel like the guy we saw before he got injured 2 years ago is a superstar in this league, right? So this is interesting to see. But so far, Tristan Gray got the 2 starts versus righties and then went on the paternity list for the weekend. So he probably wouldn't have been in there versus the lefty anyway. Brooks Lee slid over and Kreidler is in there at shortstop. He also was at shortstop on Wednesday before these moves. That's intriguing to me. Minnesota's lineup has been one it's very difficult to pin down exactly what their lineup is against a righty or lefty because they fluctuate it even with the same handedness pitcher. They're one of the many teams that they have a pretty set schedule for their catchers, or did, with Jeffers would be in there at DH many days, but he was typically a 2-on 1-off guy. Once in a while he'd only play one and then DH and get, but that's what we were seeing out of him. Caratini is going to get obviously more playing time, with Alex Jackson being the call up to be the backup catcher. So I think Caratini is going to get a boost. Obviously, he had also been on about a 2-on 1-off or 2-on 2-off between catcher and first base. So he was getting about 50% of the playing time, and I expect that to bump up to where he is one of the catchers that it should be in people's waterfalls this weekend. When, we just lost Cal Raleigh. Now we're losing Jeffers, right, and we have another catcher to talk about. So here's something I want to bring up. You know what? Let's wait till we get to the next catcher as well.
Okay, all right. Just another interesting note, based on the Minnesota lineup over this past week. Byron Buxton did avoid the IL, but did miss about 5 games due to injury. When he came back the last 3 days, he's still leading off, but taking up just DH spots, hasn't touched center field yet. And they've kind of mixed and matched center field between James Outman and today Austin Martin got the start there as well. So, but that means they've been moving around other players. Josh Bell started 3 days straight at first base, who had been pretty much entirely DH for the Twins as well, and he's been producing rather well. So I always like to if Josh Bell is doing well and I'm talking to you, I'm going to give him a shout out.
Yeah, he'd been slumping, so it's good to see him getting that. He started off the season amazingly, kind of how he finished the second half of last season, and then he had prolonged 2 to 3 week slump, but it looks like he's coming out of it.
But yeah, it just seems like if Byron Buxton goes back or continues to be DH, this could continue to see, maybe James Outman continues to get everyday run, or at least mostly everyday run in the outfield, which he has for the last week and a half, minus today's start on Friday. Atlanta loses their second catcher in 2 weeks. They lost Sean Murphy quite again. No one shocked on that one. But now they lose Drake Baldwin to the IL with a strained oblique of his own, and they bring up Chadwick Tromp to replace him on the roster. We're at a point again. There's a strong possibility you have both Jeffers and Baldwin, because you had, Jeffers was filling in for somebody else you lost earlier in the season. Do you feel like you need to drop Baldwin with a strained oblique at this stage of the season, and just replace him with, a warm body, because you don't want to hold an injured catcher on your roster if you don't have IL spots?
No, it's grade 1. They're saying, I know obliques could be weird, but I'd expect him back within a month, being a grade 1. So I'm definitely holding Baldwin. He's been a top 5 catcher this season, and recently probably number 1 catcher overall in fantasy baseball. So I would hold on to him. Trump probably does not get the playing time. I think Sandy Leon's going to get a bump, and we see him, more of that 70% rather than what we were seeing out of him. So he is a possible add this week, because this is what I started to get at when we were talking about Jeffers. When we're talking 15-team leagues, Adam, the 25th highest rostered catcher, eligible player in 15-team leagues, what do you think his rostership is?
25th ranked catcher?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm not gonna look this up. I'm gonna go with it's probably high. Just because I'll go with 75%.
It's 95.
Oh, geez. All right.
And some of those 100% rostered catchers, 2 of them might get dropped this week, but I doubt Baldwin does. So that's including 3 guys that can't be, at least 3 guys that cannot be in our lineups this week. And then you're still at 85% and higher, down to the 30th ranked catcher. So we pretty much in our NFBC 15 team leagues, for the most part, the same 30 catchers are being started, right? With not a lot, because then it does start dropping off 65%. But that's a guy that's at AAA, Agustin Ramirez, right? So catcher is going to be very tough this week. We mentioned Victor Caratini, mentioned Sandy Leon, guys like Pedro Pages and Gary Sanchez that have been performing well at times this season. They're even close to 40% rostered. So make your waterfalls long. You're not the only one that lost a catcher this week.
Yeah, it's you. Like, I felt like I've lost a catcher once or twice in different leagues throughout the course of the season, and it's like, oh, good timing. I can just throw a dollar bid on 2 or 3 catchers and be perfectly fine with who I get. It's like, now you may not even be able to do that. Like, you're still gonna have the waterfall bids, but you're gonna have to bid $2, $3, $4 on all of them, hoping that you get one of them, right? So hopefully you've got a little bit of extra coin that you can throw out there, because you just that leads to another question. It's like, well, when is it okay just to take the 0 at the position because your roster, or you're starting the 30th plus ranked catcher at all, like, and you're going to get maybe 2 or 3 starts in the week out of them, and are they actually producing at a level that's going to be a positive value? Like, Sandy Leon might be getting a bump in playing time, but is that a good thing? Like, is that something I want on my roster? So you have to really kind of like see what it is you're actually adding to your roster, and is it a addition by or subtraction by addition, as opposed to like just a warm body.
Yeah, that's why that's a great point, Adam. And adding that onto the long waterfalls, guys like Higashioka, right, in Texas, gets about 2 starts a week. We know he's got moderate power. He's not going to hurt my ratios, but he might give me something. Mm-hmm. So guys like that, maybe you bump them over the Leons that aren't doing much in their playing time.
Yeah. I mean, I know you want every opportunity to get as many volume stats as you can, but if you don't trust them to actually take advantage of that opportunity, if they don't have that power set of being able to, they're not going to, more than likely, these guys are not at the top of the lineup, so they're not going to have an opportunity to score a bunch of runs. So you're really just relying on them poking one over the fence once every other week, and grabbing an RBI, grabbing a home run every once in a while. And as long as they're not going 0 for 20 or 1 for 20 doing it with 1 home run, then maybe it's fine. But if you are afraid that that's going to happen, they're going to go that 1 home run and go 1 for 21. That's not beneficial.
That's Texas is the Texas Rangers are the perfect example of that. I was big on Danny Jansen coming into the year, because typically when healthy, he's been good. He's been healthy and he has not been good. In fact, I don't think he has over 2 hits in a week since the first week of the season, because he started out hot coming out of the gate. So I would much rather have Higgy in my lineup than Danny Jansen right now. They play on the same team, and Danny Jansen's getting way more playing time. I'd rather have Higashioka. To your point, and I hadn't really thought of that till you brought it up.
Then you got to think about, I'm like, well, if I'm just trying to take advantage of opportunity, let's just see what catching situations are playing in Colorado this week, or playing in Cincinnati this week, or in West Sacramento. And if any of those backup catchers are available, I get 1 or 2 starts out of them in that series. Maybe I hit gold on a 3-game, 4-game series. San Francisco's in Colorado next weekend. Just throwing that out there. They have both of their guys are going to be available on the wire. And one of them is going to start 2 out of 3 of that series. So you just got to pick.
Right. I went and got Jesus Rodriguez in a couple of leagues. One was where I had lost Raleigh. It was good timing. A couple others, I still had not great C2s. So thought that would be a big upgrade. Not only has he not performed, and I'm not really upset about that yet, it still hasn't been many plate appearances, a slow start, But due to that slow start, right after he got his call up, Susac came back off the IL.
Right.
And Susac was performing well before he went on the IL. We knew he'd probably get at least half the time. There was some hope that Rodriguez might be able to play some outfield as well, but he hasn't hit enough to do that yet. So Susac is, I had his rostership up here. He would be my top catching target if I lost a catcher this week, is my point.
Yeah. Daniel Susac,
80% in 15s.
Yeah.
That's how rostered these catchers are. Yeah.
Yeah. Came back at the end of last week and has started 4 out of 5 or out of 6, 7, 4 out of 7 games since his return. And now San Francisco, after trading Patrick Bailey away, now has 3 catchers on the roster, splitting time between Eric Haas, Jesus Rodriguez, and Daniel Susac. So one of those is going to probably break at some point, and not in a injury way. Just one of them will probably just get sent down or DFA'd or something. All right. Well, I said it's Catcherpalooza, so we've got 2 other ones. I'll just lump these together. James McCann hits the IL with a quad strain, and then Kyle Teel has a strained LCL. Okay. I don't know how many CLs there are, but we'll add the letter L to it as well. And he should be out for about a month or so with just rest and rehab. Are either one of these guys making an impact? Are you dropping them anywhere? Do you have them anywhere that this is going to be a concern?
I don't think so. McCann has been on a couple of my rosters at time or two throughout the season, streaming weeks here and there when he was getting a little more playing time. But Kyle Teel, I know was still there was a lot of talk about Kyle Teel. He was still pretty heavily rostered, but he was in a lot of Discord discussions about should we drop him. So but it does add to people finally ready to make that call. Yes, I have to let him go. And this, that just more people bidding on catchers this weekend. This is not a good weekend to need a catcher.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had already been
because some of the guys, like I said, that I've gone out and just used for a week because of I knew I could get them for $1 and then I was going to drop them. They're not available. Like James McCann. Right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're still holding on to Kyle Teel, I'm not sure what's going on, but I mean, he hasn't played this year and he's been on the IL for pretty much the entire year, did some rehab since, and now transferred over to the 60-day IL due to this injury. And, I don't expect him to, do much for you. And if you're holding on to him in a league that has no IL spots, it may just be a cause of mismanagement of your team. Sorry to say at this stage of the season. All right. Well, that finally does it, Kevin. Hopefully I didn't miss anything major. And I'm
sure we did, but
yeah, of course. I scattered in some
Friday.
random ones.
We got time to find more.
It'll pop up on the news feed as we're moving along. But of course, there's always better ways of learning about the news as we go along by listening to the daily First Pitch podcast over at the Pitcher List Podcast Network. It's got its own feed. You can listen to it on the podcast feed. So there's a lot of ways of listening to that, and they've got you covered over there on a daily basis, as does Nick Pollock with the Plus Pitch podcast, as he relives every single weekday's starting game. Well, games from Sunday through Thursday, because he publishes Monday through Friday. And make sure you're listening to what he has to say and his observations from all those games and all those starting pitchers and their performances. But now we get into the crux of the episode, as we tend to do, Kevin, all of our recommendations for your FAAB considerations as we head into the 10th FAAB period of the 2026 season. But first, we are going to take another quick break. All right, Kevin, we've got power that we need to get to. Lots of guys that we might have lost due to injury. We might be just realizing we're looking at the standings, as I talked before, and we realized power is where we are short. Where are we looking to make up for it?
Well, if you are lucky enough to be in one of the 8% of 15-team NFBC leagues or 20% of 12-team NFBC leagues, Austin Wells was somebody I was targeting this week prior to all of the catcher injuries. He gets to go to Kansas City and face 2 lefties out of 3 games. And there is no doubt in my mind Austin Wells hits a home run in Kansas City. He's facing Bailey Falter and Noah Cameron. He's going to crush a baseball this week, early in the week. And then they do face a lefty over the weekend as well. And Austin Wells actually has been in the lineup most days recently. I do expect him to be 100% rostered, even in 12s after this Sunday. And then his teammate is playing against righties. All 5 of Goldie's, Paul Goldschmidt's home runs have come in the past 4 weeks. He's playing against righties now. Now, so far, it hasn't worked out. He's like 0 for 13, but he's getting that playing time. And he also gets 3 lefties this week, 2 of them in Kansas City, 3 soft tossing lefties, another one throughout the week. He will get a start against a righty or 2 as well. He's only 8% rostered in 15s because he was that short side platoon. But I expect to see this continue this week. And so Paul Goldschmidt, 2% in 12-team leagues. I like these 2 Yankees this week, and unfortunately, especially at Kauffman Stadium against the lefties.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if he fits in power or in speed. I should probably just move him to opportunity. But I'm just going to throw it out there. What are your thoughts on Jock Peterson, as he seems to be taking over that leadoff spot for the Rangers on most days on that strong side of that platoon, as they head into Houston, or they host Houston, and they should get all righties against them in the 4-game series to start the week. Now they'll hit a lefty when they face your Royals probably. But Jock Peterson should be getting everyday run for the most majority of next week at the top of that lineup.
Yeah, Jock Peterson started out really slow, so don't let that 234 batting average fool you. It's been a little better than that. He was like 0 for the first week or week and a half of the season. So, so he's come around, 3 home runs. A couple of them have been recently, just had a 4-hit night recently. And that's going to help him keep that leadoff spot versus righties. We do know throughout his career, he rarely plays versus lefties, and that has been the case in Texas as well, as they just faced 3 straight lefties earlier this week. So that is the only issue I would have with Jock Peterson. And this week, Texas 6 righties and 1 lefty. Exactly. So love that call, Adam.
Well, I won't get all the credit. As I said, I usually reference PL Bot's projections, and he is, for those who are rostered in less than 50% of main event leagues, has the highest projections for home runs for this following week, and it probably has a lot to do with that schedule, as you pointed out. The PL Bot also loves Paul Goldschmidt, and then Esmerlyn Valdez, as we talked about earlier, for the Pirates. Along with Mitch Garver as being an option for, or being projected for, at least 1 full home run on the week. So keep an eye on those opportunities. Mitch Garver, 30% rostered in 15 teamers, so regularly there as well. So, if does Garver still have catcher eligibility, or is he DH only, UT only in NFBC?
Where's my catcher list?
I was looking at Mitch Garver, catcher eligible there. So I guess that's timely, based on the conversation from earlier.
Exactly.
Jock Peterson, though, being at the top of the lineup, might score some runs. He's not stealing any. He's probably not stealing a whole bunch of bases for you, though, Kevin. So if we do need some speed, which is the area that I have the most need in most of my leagues, I did a pretty good job with power. I thought I did an okay job with padding that power with Jose Caballero in every single league. Has not been enough. So who's
Mhm.
out there that's going to steal some bases for me alongside Caballero now that he's back?
Yeah, Dylan Cruz. We talked about him earlier. He would be a good target for that. I think he has 7, something like that, so far this year in the minors, and 16 or 17 last season for Washington. A couple of the usual suspects, David Hamilton. He's up there. If your team can handle the batting average hit, he's hitting like 180. But Nasim Nunez has 22 stolen bases now on the season. It's insane. So he's still out there stealing bases. But I probably should have brought this guy up last week. And I know we talked about him, but we should have talked about it more in the speed category. And that's Esteury Ruiz in Miami. Actually getting a little bit of playing time, and he stole 6 bases in 1 week 2 weeks ago for Miami, and that now hasn't stolen a base since. He's not playing a lot. We are getting, it's still a little early to be streaming guys that aren't starting games for stolen bases, but Ruiz still has the weekend to go. He can get the at-bats. He's only got double-digit plate appearances in a week, one time. But unlike Nunez, that's playing every day because of his defense and stealing bases, Ruiz, that week that he had 6 stolen bases 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, he only had 8 at-bats that week. So he is getting in there at times. There has not been an opportunity for him to get in there and steal the bases over the past week and a half, but I think they're going to try to do with him what they did 2 weeks ago. So Esteury Ruiz is somebody I definitely have an eye on as well. And Jake McCarthy just keeps hanging out in Colorado. He doesn't have the stolen bases that I thought he might, but we continue to, he continues to get projected for those stolen bases, and he does have a couple this week. So he's starting to run again when he's getting out there on the field. So Jake McCarthy as well. And I think they're at home for half the week, Colorado. Yeah.
Jake Myers that we talked about earlier, getting more playing time in Houston, or as he's coming back, as he came back, he's near the top of the list for PL bot. And the pair of Rays, which I found a little interesting. Taylor Walls is like not rostered anywhere, but he is playing every single day. He's the everyday shortstop for the Rays. Has some speed in him. Hasn't stolen as many bases as maybe I thought he would at this point. I think he's got 6 on the season, but he has the highest projection in stolen bases by PL bot. And then Richie Palacios is playing every day on the strong side of the platoon, so every day against righties for the Rays, and they do face 5 out of 6 righties coming up this week. The Rays do, and he's been pretty much playing every day at second base and has stolen like 3 bases in the last week as well. So he is obviously, Tampa Bay is letting him run in the middle of the lineup. He's been batting 5th pretty much every day that he's been in the lineup for the last 2 weeks. So Richie Palacios and Taylor Walls for the Rays, a couple of names if they're available, and they are available in plenty of leagues. If you are as desperate as I am, might be being thrown into a couple of waterfall bids here or there.
Got one more that he's not playing a lot, but it's tough. Well, he will play if they face a lot of lefties, and the White Sox have not faced many lefties. But Derek Hill I think he has got as many stolen bases on the season as he has starts. And it's only like 6 or 7. But if the White Sox would have some lefties coming up, and they only face 2 this week, Derek Hill will be in at least 2 games.
There you go.
He's somebody to keep an eye on. Probably not this week, but going forward when the White Sox are facing a lot of lefties.
Yeah, unfortunately, those lefties are split between potentially Wednesday
first
and
half
Friday.
And second half. Doesn't even work for half a week.
Yeah. But always a name to just add to your watch list and just keep an eye on what their schedule looks like in any ever random given week. Again, especially if you're in a situation like me where you're just kind of desperate for whatever stolen. You can get one if he plays one time and he gets you a stolen base, or he doesn't start and he gets pinch run in and he can steal a base that way. There you go. It's just hard to protect that. All right. Well, I kind of used up the opportunity on Jock Peterson already, but we've got other opportunities to consider. Let's look at the schedule as well. Like I said, MLB's done of all the bad things that MLB does, every once in a while, they've done a really good job with the schedule and not giving any team 5 work days. So everybody's got at least 6. There is less than a handful of teams that have 7 though, so can take consideration that. Baltimore, Toronto, the White Sox, Minnesota, Houston, Texas, and the Cubs and Pirates are all playing 7 games this week. Colorado will be splitting their time, 3 in LA against the Dodgers and then hosting San Francisco for 3. Cincinnati also splitting. They'll be away from Cincinnati, playing in Citi Field against the Mets for the beginning of the week and then hosting Atlanta in Great American Small Park over the weekend. The Athletics, after being away from West Sacramento all of this current week or last week, however you want to look at that, they will be back home all week, and I'll use home in quotations, for 3 against Seattle and 3 against the Yankees. So Seattle, I love going from the at T-Mobile Park being so pitcher friendly, going into West Sacramento is a nice change of pace for them as well. But with all that in mind and anything else you want to consider, Kevin, who has a decent opportunity ahead of themselves for this coming week?
Adam, I think this is the exact same opportunity that we've already had once this season. 7 games, all versus right-handed starting pitching for a cleanup hitter that has some availability, and that's Spencer Horwitz in Pittsburgh. I think that platoon is, and he's only got 4 home runs, so not a ton of power for a cleanup hitter. But he is slugging .430, not horrible. Better, but he has a batting average that actually helps us, and he is getting the runs and RBI. He's on pace for 75, 80 of each of those. Maybe only 70, but walk rate higher than his strikeout rate. So, Spencer Horwitz getting 7 games. The last time they faced 7 straight righties in a week, he played all 7 days.
Interesting. And then, we already talked about
I like your Jock Peterson more. You were right.
Well,
that's an opportunity section.
I'll double down then on Texas as they face so many righties, 6 out of 7 righties, as you mentioned earlier. Alejandro Osuna should be playing just about all 6 of those games, and he's been getting regular run for the Rangers in left field against those righties. Actually got a start against a lefty this week as well, but that was just because they had 3 straight games against lefties. But everyday playing time, not putting up exemplary numbers in that time period, but if he can continue to get that kind of volume, Peelbot seems to think he can do something with it. Projected for a 240 average with close to a guarantee and a stolen base, so that's a 80% chance of a stolen base. 3 RBI on the week, 3.5 runs scored on the week. So one of the higher overall projected players by PLBot for this coming week, with 7 games on the slate, 6 of them against right-handed starters, or at least projected to be. That is Alejandro Osuna, as a reminder.
Yeah, what I like about that is good batting average, and as far as the stolen bases go, he was 4 out of 4 AAA before coming back to the Rangers, and he's 1 out of 3. However, it is encouraging that his successful stolen base is the most recent attempt. So he hasn't been shut down yet on the base pass. So that's what I was checking out, and that's encouraging.
It's probably one of those, like, you miss one more, we're going to sit down. So he's like, all right, I got to get this one. Texas playing against Houston and your Kansas City Royals. So I don't think either one of those teams are necessarily known as the team you want to run on. I don't think I think they're both in kind of in the middle of the pack, but they're not Miami, put it that way. But nobody is. All right. Well, lot of hitters to consider. Probably have a lot of players to throw in your lineups, or at least need to backfill. So keep in mind all of those names and more. But now we need to talk about pitchers, Kevin. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. All right, Kevin, we need to scrape some wins off the pavement here. Maybe get some volume Ks out there as well. Who is going for that two-step that you trust, or who just has a really good matchup that you think they can take advantage of and get ourselves a win or a couple extra strikeouts?
It doesn't appear that they're a 6-man rotation, so it won't be a two-step this week. But Eric Lauer for the Los Angeles Dodgers gets Rocky Road on Monday. Colorado Rockies, in spite of being a much better team than they were last season, still not good on the road. In the month of May, they are the worst road team in baseball with a 600 OPS, 608. I don't want to cheat them there. Those 8 percentage points, 608 OPS and a 71 team WRC plus on the road. Now they're on the road this weekend, and the longer the road trip, the more I think they start seeing that movement on baseballs and catching up with the movement a little bit. But also, the longer a road trip, the worse any team gets away from home, the longer away from home you are. So I absolutely am curious to see how Eric Lauer performs, see what the Dodgers have done with him on Monday. Martin Perez continues just to defy all of the underlying metrics, right? He just does what he does. 32% rostered in 15s, 3% in the 12-team leagues out there. You can probably find better in the 12s. But Martin Perez, we expect to see at Cincinnati next weekend. As a lefty, that doesn't worry me too much with Cincinnati, him going into Great American Small Park on next weekend. For Chicago, Ray, he gets he had a pretty good matchup this week. We get to see him at Pittsburgh chasing wins. I might not go after Ray. He's facing Paul Skeens, right. So that hurts his chance at a win. But I think his line should be pretty good if you're looking for some strikeouts there. And then I had one more, I think. Oh, I got 2 more because I did write down Jared Jones. Yeah, if he was drafted in your league, he is 32% rostered in main events. So he's been held all season in a third of main event leagues, or dropped and picked back up already in a third of main event leagues. He's only 10% rostered in 12s. So Jared Jones may have some availability out there. And Slade Ciccone for Cleveland, he has not been great this season, but he has been better recently. 2 of his last 3 starts have actually been pretty darn good. And he is at home versus your Red Sox. Nice ballpark to pitch in. Your Red Sox, they've come around a little bit, and that has quite a bit to do with playing my Kansas City Royals, I think.
Maybe.
But sure. It hasn't been a lineup we've been scared of this season. So Slade Ciccone performing much better in recent starts. I like him this week as well.
I mean, you have to take note of Anthony Kay, who has a 2-start week as well. And his last 4 starts, he's looked a lot better than his first 4 starts on the season. So it does look like he's coming into his own. I know that, if you listen to Nick Pollock on the daily podcast, he's still kind of, he was very big on Anthony Kay going into the season through spring training. And obviously did not work out. So he's still maybe he's a little, hurt by that. But he's not ready to completely go all in. But this is, if you're going to take the plunge, this is the week to do it with this 2-start week against Minnesota and I missed who his
Detroit. And they're both mid-pack versus lefties this month. However, they both strike out 26-27% of the time versus lefties. So
there you go.
That's what we like to see.
Yep. And of course, because of the volume, he's the second highest rated pitcher in the weekly projections on PLBot. Griffin Canning actually PLV loves Griffin Canning for some reason. I will not be taking that risk, I don't think, but Anthony K, I will definitely have some bids on. I just with how well he's done in those last 4 starts, with the 2 start combined with that, and it's kind of like a perfect storm here. I'm going to probably be paying more for Anthony K than I ever thought I would on the season. But it may hopefully it's worth it. All right. Well, we've got, all these guys come with a little bit of risk. If you're chasing the volume, you're going to hurt your ratios here or there. So in order to kind of balance the scales, Kevin, who are you adding to the ratio turnstiles for this week?
Tanner Scott's new setup guy. Kyle Hurt has been amazing over his past 13, 14 appearances. Finally gave up a run a night or two ago. But he has pitched his way into high leverage situations for the Dodgers. Anytime we can get that, and he is not rostered in FBC formats right now, I'm going to change that this weekend. I'm sure I won't be the only one.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, it's always interesting. PLBot's only really looking at starters. Dax Fulton is the top guy in projected ERA, right above Jose Soriano. But Soriano probably, he has a little bit of a mix and match of availability. But Dax Fulton of Miami, he very well could end up being the guy that does the bulk of all those. That he might be the missing piece we were talking about in the Miami rotation, since they don't have a whole lot of guys that are gonna come up.
We need that
or at least we don't
follower.
expect.
Kyle Hurt has a lower ERA than he has WHIP, and his WHIP is 0.79. His ERA is 0.64.
That's good. I think. Yes, that's good. Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about Dodgers. I got to bring up River Ryan once again. He did not get the call to fill Blake Snell's spot, but he did have another exciting outing in AAA just the other day. So keep an eye on River Ryan. He got picked up in our listener league that we're both in as well. So I was a little disappointed. I think I had a bid on him in there, and I did not win him. And I mean, obviously, it's not a dead spot on my roster for this week, but I think I'm going to be disappointed not having him when he does make his return to Los Angeles. All right. Well, you got a setup guy, Kevin, but now you need some actual saves. Who are you? What situations are you watching closely, and which ones are you willing to make a move on in this week's FAAB?
The guy that we thought, or many of us thought, was going to be the guy for the Chicago White Sox finally got his first save. Grant Taylor. And he's been pitching well. Speaking of ratios, a 1.78 ERA so far this season and a 1.14 WHIP. Because he'll walk a couple here and there. Big strikeout guy. So Grant Taylor starting to make his way into the ninth when we've seen Sir Anthony Dominguez as good as he was early. It's been kind of rocky recently, and in his most 2 recent outings, he has given up multiple runs, including a home run. So we may see Grant Taylor take this job. And if so, that it's somebody I definitely have to be interested in with some of my teams. The way you were talking about stolen bases, I'm still that way with saves and multiple leagues.
Yeah, I definitely have a league or two where saves are right in line with my stolen bases. So I feel you on that one.
We maybe see a change in Washington. Gus Varland doesn't seem to be getting all the opportunities anymore as well.
As we would expect, or as, at least the ones we were expecting to see. Does Matt Brash is back. I alluded to him last week. He is officially back. Got the win on Wednesday. Andres Munoz got another blown save on Tuesday. I know how much you waxed poetic about Andres Munoz in the offseason. Is there a chance that either he's dealing with an injury or they do some kind of manipulation to give him a little bit of rest? And assuming that Matt Brash is running well. I mean, I know Jose Ferrer got the save on Wednesday after Munoz blew it on Tuesday, but that was also because Munoz was on back-to-back games, Monday and Tuesday. What any thoughts on stashing Brash or Ferrer with the assumption that Munoz doesn't lose the job but gets a little bit of a rest in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, Munoz got the save on Friday once again against my Royals. I don't think they win games anymore, but at
least they're close.
I think Matt Brash is always someone good to have on my roster because I will use him as the ratios guy we just talked about. And yes, I do believe that we may see Munoz deployed a little earlier in games, still high leverage, but it hasn't been that long ago since he was by far the best reliever on that team, but only got about half the saves. And they may try to slide him back and see if getting back in that routine gets him to whittle down this 4.82 ERA that we did not expect out of Munoz this season. So yeah, I absolutely think it's possible.
Yeah. I mean,
even if he's still pitching well.
He just every time I look and he's had a blown save or got a loss or whatever, and then I bring him up, you go and tell me that he got another save and I just missed that one. But then he's been so up and down throughout the course of this entire season that it always seems, if he was anybody else, it seems like he would already be on the hot seat or he'd be sharing the duties with somebody else. But obviously with his success that he has had, he does get a little bit more of a leash than most. But yeah, Matt Brash is not going to hurt you elsewhere as well. So maybe just a good person to keep for your ratios and especially as you are starting to target setup guys in that area. And that's always a good name to just keep in your rotation. Yeah, Kyle Hurt was a good throw out there as well. Peter Fairbanks is back from Miami, but he has not looked good and not pitched a whole lot either. So I don't know that there's anything you really want to do with a Miami bullpen outside of Fairbanks, but a situation just to monitor.
Yeah, what do you think about the New York Yankees and David Bednar?
I don't want to think because I have too much Bednar.
Other pitcher in the top 10 in saves, which Munoz is. He's the only other one. He's the only pitcher with a higher ERA than Munoz. His is over 5.
His is over 5, and it's mostly due to like 2 outings that have really bloated it out. So we'll give him that a little bit of a pass. But yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because the Yankees have not always done this, like where they've just held on to somebody in that role. And the fact that they have just left Bednar in there pretty much all year tells me that they're willing to continue to do that. And maybe I'm willing this into existence because I have plenty of Bednar out there in my leagues that I really don't want him to lose this job. But they do have Camilo Doval, who got a save on Tuesday after Bednar pitched 50 some odd pitches between Sunday and Monday. So I'm not putting too much stock into the fact that Doval got a save. It was more opportunity than anything else.
Right. I got excited when I saw that because I had been thinking about this and went looking, and I don't think Doval overall has been pitching any
better. Yeah,
but up at least 1 run in 6 of his last 11 appearances. Like over half of double-digit appearances, the closer has given up a run.
Well, yeah, Bednar pitched today in a non-save situation, and of course, didn't let up any runs in that one. Struck out the side, and so
I thought you were going to go the other way. I thought it would have been horrendous not being a save situation.
But he hadn't pitched in 3 days, so this was, let's get yourself right, get your head back, and get you out there. And cool, he let up. I think he let up 1 hit, but he struck out everybody else. So. there, we'll kind of see how the weekend plays out. But I do not expect Bednar to lose that job. At most, he might share the job, and it won't be like always the David Bednar show there. But I don't think that happens sooner. Rather, it happens later on in the season, and not, sometime in
My
May or
problem
June.
was, even if I wanted to speculate, I couldn't find out who the spec would be. That was my problem. Because first thought is it's Doval, but might as well stick with Bednar.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, that leads us to, of course, my favorite section here, and that is the wild card selections here. But of course, before we do that, we are going to take one last break. All right, Kevin, you've got some great names for us the last 2 or 3 weeks. Keep it rolling here with some fun wild card speculation. If, of course, these names are even available in your leagues.
The first one I have, I don't know where he will play, but Marco Luciano is performing very well at AAA. And let me pull up his numbers really quick. I had him right here earlier, so it won't take me long. 11 home runs on the season and 5 stolen bases so far. The big thing is he's cut his strikeout rate. His strikeout rate at AAA in 555 plate appearances in the Giants organization last season was 30.6%. At AAA this season, he only played 49 games because he'd been so good at AA, hitting 10 home runs in only 117 plate appearances, with an improved strikeout rate down to 27.4%. And that got him an immediate jump back to AAA, where he had not been yet in the Yankees organization, this being his first year there. And right away, 16% strikeout rate. This was only 49 plate appearances, but another home run in those 49 plate appearances, a couple more stolen bases. And now 166 total plate appearances on the season, 11 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 303 batting average, almost 400 on base percentage. It's getting to the point where I think the Yankees will find room for him.
He's been playing pretty much all of his time at second base in AAA and AA this year, as he's kind of moved up and down. Not a position he's been known to play in his career, both in the minors and the majors. Obviously, come up as a shortstop, played a little outfield, moved to third base. Does he, is he just waiting for an injury to Jazz Chisholm to take over that role, or is it a 1-for-1 situation that you expect to happen, or is he going to continue to play the way he's been playing, forcing the issue, and then they either move him to a new position or move Jazz over to third and say, Ryan McMahon, sorry, we don't need you that much over at the hot corner anymore. Jazz doesn't seem, I don't know, I wouldn't say he's interested, but I think he's been pretty comfortable in second base. I don't know that you want to make that kind of a move either, and just hope for the best in all situations.
Yeah, could be an injury, could be a move like that, could be some shuffling around if Goldschmidt doesn't hit versus righties, like I plan for him to get the opportunity to here in the near future. But yeah, this is just improvement that we've seen out of Luciano.
Right.
3 seasons ago, maybe 4, top 10 prospect. And we're starting to see some of that projection. And he is still, is he 23 now or 24?
Man, I just feel like
24 years old.
I feel like he's like 34. Just as long as we've been talking about him. But yeah, it's interesting to see that he is under the age of 25 and finally coming into that position of showing improvement. Obviously, all the concerns about the strikeout rate and the aggressive swinging and whatnot. And if that's the thing that he has put all the effort into, and the Yankees have found a way to calm him down a little bit at the plate, then great. I mean, that's I've always been a fan of Luciano, and hopefully we can see him do good things at the major league level someday. Yeah, I see another name on here that I'll be honest, I don't recognize, Kevin. So tell me a little bit more about the final wild card player.
Yeah, Jacob Gonzalez, AAA for the White Sox. He finished 2025 there at AAA, 171 plate appearances, 2 home runs. So far in 208 plate appearances at the same level for the White Sox in 2026, he has 15 home runs and 52 RBI in 45 games. There's not a lot that we can check in difference in StatCast data for AAA. Like, I really want to see his bat speed, but I think I can get to that, but it's not easy to find. So, but he has about the same number of batted ball events at AAA this season that he had last season, and he went from 37 hard hits to 52, from 32% to 39%.
Mm-hmm.
Big jump. His slugging percentage has jumped from 293 in those 114 events to 628 in 133 events. So my number one hypothesis was, I bet he stopped hitting the ball on the ground so much. And as far as at the AAA level, he's actually hitting the ball on the ground more this season than he did last season. He's got a 34% 34% ground ball rate. So that is a big difference. Now in 2025 at AAA, he had almost a 30% infield fly ball rate. That's insane to me. That almost looks like oh no, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
It almost looks like you're looking at the wrong stat. No.
Yeah, no, infield fly ball percentage. He has been around 30% most of his minor league career. That is insane. And it's down to 18% this season. So that needs to continue to improve even more. But just the fact that it has jumped him from a 200 to 230 hitter with single digit power to hitting 300 with 15 home runs in 45 games so far. The White Sox are kind of a fun team to watch this year. I've enjoyed watching them play.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So I could see them making this move, and anybody with this kind of power, we're going to be interested in.
The hard hit
even
rate,
if it is only been for a month and a half of his entire career that we've seen this power.
Yeah, that's definitely a spotlight to put on there. But you point out like the extra hard hit balls that he's hit, and the fact that he's hitting the ball on the ground more often probably equates to the 319 BABIP that we've seen, which is his career high in this short period of time, which in turn leads to that 300 batting average, which he has never really come close to doing beyond high A ball 2 years ago for 165 plate appearances. So his opposite
field percentage has dropped significantly.
So he's just leaning into
not
it, right?
Necessarily getting full pull on the ball. His pull percentage is about the same, but his center field really jumped up as the oppo went down.
Yeah, just taking that opportunity to like, you know what? I'm here. I'm at AAA. I just need to start, pulling the ball more. Maybe, like you said, not down the line every single time, but it's just like getting on the ball a lot faster, a little bit, hitting the ball a lot harder. And when you hit the ball hard and on the ground, you find the holes a lot more often. So that explains that does tend to let that high BABIP be a little bit more sustainable if you're going to continue to hit the ball in that manner. And yeah, good name to throw out there. It's like you start realizing some guys just find something new and they click in AAA. And we just saw this with, Pedro Martinez having a great start to the season, and the Cubs decide to call him up. So it's like there are players out there, especially in the age 24, 25 range, that are just like, listen, what else do I need to do? I need to find that next step. All right, I'm going to force the hand of my.
This is the type of guy that may not be rostered in your dynasty league that you could even go out and get, because at that age at AAA, people start thinking, no, and especially with what he'd done prior to this season. If you haven't looked at this season's stats for this guy, you have paid him zero attention.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you look at James Anderson's top 400, I don't know where Gonzalez, but if you look at Pedro,
He just updated
Martinez,
that, by the way.
Pedro Martinez, Pedro Ramirez just skyrocketed up his list just because he got that call, right? And it's like, and because of the way he started off this season. So these guys can make large jumps just due to the fact that they're producing. Simple as that.
He's down the list away on James Anderson's new update, and I don't think James minds us plugging him a little bit by giving a couple of names here. But he is new to his list. He did just pop in. So kind of like we were saying, this is a guy you wouldn't have paid any attention to until what he's done this season.
And then you can't look away once you've seen it, right? You can't unsee it. Cool. Well, good names to keep an eye on. And then hopefully we'll be talking about Gonzalez and Luciano's call up in the next couple of weeks, if not next week's episodes, Kevin. But with that, all that in mind and everything else, what else do you got to leave us on this Memorial Day weekend, as hopefully you have plenty of time to go out and barbecue or do whatever? I will be hitting up our local Six Flags with the kids on Monday.
Oh, nice.
That will be after I do my FAAB on Sunday, so I will not be missing that. After
you go see Jared Jones pitch on Saturday.
I'm
going to will this into existence for you, Adam.
I know, right? I'll come back and edit the episode on Saturday night. I'll add in a little thing at the end, letting everybody know.
Nice.
But yeah, actually, you know what? Speaking of editing the episode and adding things at the end, 2 pieces of the news did come across the desk while we were recording. Probably worth at least throwing out there. One, we're not sure about is that Max Muncy did have negative results on his wrist, or imaging was negative, so I guess positive results. But he will probably miss the rest of the weekend, at least. I would expect him. I mean, based on the comments from Dave Roberts, I would expect him back in the Dodgers regular rotation or lineup next week. But are you concerned about this? Where you have Muncy, are you just hopefully, well, by the time you're listening to this, obviously you didn't have a chance to pull him from your weekend lineups, but would you expect to kind of pull him from the first half of your lineup for next week?
I'd wait and see over the weekend. I'd be worried about appearances this weekend. Lots of times with these types of injuries, things can pop up after the initial imaging. We've seen that multiple times this season, but at the same time, I'm not too concerned yet. I would be upset if I had him in my lineup this weekend though, but there's nothing you could do about it.
Yeah. And then Mickey Moniak does officially hit the IL for the Colorado Rockies on Friday. So he'll obviously be not an option for you throughout the course of next week and into the following week. He's been DHing, playing a little bit of center field every now and again, and a little bit of left field. So kind of all over the place over the last couple weeks for the Rockies, but batting first or second against all, mixing and matching. He's been playing mostly every day with random days off. The days off he does get against lefties, but he has started against a couple of lefties as well. What do you expect as far as somebody taking his place in that playing time specifically, if any?
Well, it's interesting because they sent Sterling Thompson down after bringing him up for 4 days, and he started against the 2 lefties that they faced last weekend, Saturday and Monday. Sent him back down. Then with this injury, they brought him back up, got him right in the lineup versus a righty at designated hitter, which probably would have been Moniak's spot versus the righty. So as of now, it appears they called up Sterling Thompson to take this spot versus righties. The games that Moniak had been sitting were mostly against lefties. He was probably playing about half the time against lefties. It wasn't a strict platoon. And Braxton Fulford, another recent call up for Colorado, getting those at-bats versus lefties this week. I will be completely honest. I don't know anything about either of these guys.
A situation just to at least see how Colorado irons itself out over the weekend by the time you throw in some bids and see if there's anybody worth it.
First glance, Sterling Thompson looks like he's got some speed, might steal a few bases, and Fulford's just against lefties, so I probably won't worry too much about him.
Maybe Troy Johnson gets a couple extra starts.
That would be nice.
In the outfield as well. He's been missing more time than I think most of us would like. But now maybe he gets everyday run with with a 6-game week. Hopefully he plays 5 out of 6, if not all 6.
Yep. And if they don't struggle too much against that Dodgers pitching, you can't hope for much of a better ballpark week than if you're not playing them all at Coors, then going to the Dodgers.
All right, Kevin, that's we're gonna call it there before any other news comes across the desk. It's kind of late on the East Coast on a Friday, so I'm not expecting any more news, but of course there will be stuff that happens on Saturday and Sunday as you're listening to this, so hopefully not too much major things. But besides news, what else are you thinking about as we head into this week 10 or the 10th FAAB period?
Well, I do still know I have friends that still play by the rule that they do not make any trades until Memorial Day. That does include the weekend, though. So there have been trades posted in those leagues today from guys that would not consider it until this weekend. But for me, it's not that. It's I will start looking at some noisy stats. Like you alluded to, we're almost a third of the way through the season. And speaking of those ballpark factors, yes, there is a ton of noise when you're only looking at a single season, especially a third of a single season. But in my mind, it's definitely still worth looking at, especially the extremes, right? I did mention earlier in the show that Cleveland was a nice park to pitch in. A couple of years ago, all of a sudden, Cleveland was much better for hitters than we had seen in the past. Mm-hmm. And but this year it's bottom 5 and across the board. There's not a single offensive stat that the hitters in that ballpark are above league average in. So that may surprise some people. These are the things that I was looking for. Petco, San Diego, right? We've started thinking that ballpark was playing pretty good for hitters, at least some right-handed power, I believe it was, over the past couple of years, and they're down at the bottom again. Not going to surprise anybody that the Athletics, West Sacramento, but this is April and May, right? How much better is this ballpark going to get, right? And it's number 1, Great American Ballpark. Number 2, that's not going to surprise anybody, Yankee Stadium, Nationals, Coors. Coors and Kauffman have the same home run ballpark factor, according to StatCast, for this season. They're both league average. Now we know Coors heats up and gets humid over the summer. Kansas City, theirs is elevated due to moving the fences in a little bit. So that they're going to spread apart. Coors will be a better home run park, but that's the type of thing. We think of Pittsburgh PNC Park as being a pitcher's park. It's 7th offensively so far this season. These are the type of things I start to look at now that most of these ballparks have, if they don't have over 5,000 plate appearances this season, they're close. So I think it's time that we can start realizing Seattle is not nearly as bad for power as it has been in the past. It's mid-pack. In fact, 15th overall in ballpark factor. Right at league average, 100 ballpark factor, but for home runs, 105. So some surprises on the ballpark factors that I will take into consideration, especially when I'm looking for matchups for guys to stream as hitters. This is the type of thing that we take into consideration, and lots of times we're taking the wrong information. We're taking we're taking what we remember into consideration instead of what's actually happening.
Yeah, because obviously, everything can kind of ebb and flow throughout the course. I mean, some of it you have to play into weather conditions. We've had, a lot of cold games, a lot of rainy, snowy games early on in April. But, so a lot of these are going to change throughout the course of the summer. But the factors are playing the way they are right now. You got to play in the right now. So that's a good call out there. and we'll just keep an eye on it as the season moves along.
And the fact that West Sacramento is already 18 percentage points better than the second best ballpark when you're just looking at the runs category, and that's what we care about. Everything leads to runs. That gap's probably just going to get wider as it heats up.
It's always hot in Sacramento in general. So I'm not totally surprised about that. And it's not as though the dimensions of that ballpark change throughout the course of the season. It's, it's still a AAA park. All right. Well, we got at least a season left of ragging on that situation. So just get used to it if you haven't already. But
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, why not take advantage of it, right? And just live in it.
I'm not the one sitting in that hot stadium.
Nope, no, you're not. Neither. Only about like 5 or 10 people are on a regular basis. So.
Exactly.
Well, with all that in mind and everything else, guys, that is going to do it for episode 255 of On the Wire. Thanks so much for listening. I am Adam Howe on behalf of Kevin Hastings. Thanks for listening, and we bid you goodbye.